You're sitting in a dentist chair. The bright overhead light, the little paper bib they clip around your neck like you're about to eat lobster, the hygienist making small talk about your weekend while she holds what is essentially a tiny medieval weapon inches from your eyeball. The dentist walks in, looks at an x-ray of your skull on a glowing screen and says, "Small cavity on the upper left. Nothing serious. 20 minutes." 20 minutes. Numb. Painless. Done. Now rewind that by about 10,000 years. Or 50,000. Or 200,000. Same tooth, same cavity. Same throbbing pain that starts small and then slowly becomes the only thing your brain can think about. Except there's no dentist, there's no chair, there's no numbing agent, no drill, no filling material, no x-ray, no antibiotics, no ibuprofen, nothing. There's you, a rotting tooth, and whatever your tribe can figure out with rocks and sticks and animal bones. What did they do? Because here's the thing people don't think about. Toothaches aren't new. They're not a consequence of modern diets or processed sugar or candy bars. They are ancient. Teeth have been cracking and rotting and getting infected for as long as organisms have had them. Your ancestors dealt with the exact same screaming nerve pain you feel when you bite down on something cold with a cracked molar. The same swollen jaw, the same infection that starts in one tooth and feels like it's eating your entire face. Except they dealt with it without any of the things that make it survivable today. And what they actually did about it is one of the most surprisingly advanced, occasionally horrifying, and deeply human stories in all of prehistory. This goes way further back than you think. Let's go. Your teeth are layered. On the outside, enamel, the hardest substance your body produces, harder than steel. Beneath that, dentin, slightly porous. And in the center of every tooth is the pulp, a soft core packed with nerve endings that is extremely dramatic about being disturbed. When bacteria eat through the enamel and reach the dentin, that's when cold water hurts, hot food hurts, breathing through your mouth on a cold morning hurts. If the decay breaks through to the pulp, the nerve becomes inflamed, the pain becomes constant, and if bacteria get trapped in there with nowhere to expand, that's an abscess. An abscess in your jaw is not a tough it out problem. It's a potentially lethal one. We'll come back to that. Every step of that process existed in prehistory. The bacteria were already there. They've been there for millions of years. The sugar from wild fruits and nuts fed those bacteria. The enamel wore down from chewing gritty food mixed with sand and fragments of stone from grinding tools. And if you think ancient hunter-gatherers were immune to this because they ate natural food, a 2014 study blew that idea apart completely. Louise Humphrey and her team at the Natural History Museum in London examined teeth from a cave called Grotte des Pigeons in Morocco. The remains were about 15,000 years old. These were hunter-gatherers, people living off the land thousands of years before farming was even invented. The people we usually imagine as having perfect teeth because they ate mammoth steaks and foraged berries. More than half of the adults had cavities, over 50%. Some had cavities so severe the teeth had been completely destroyed down to the root. Their heavy diet of sweet acorns and pine nuts, starchy foods that stuck to tooth surfaces and fed bacteria, was destroying their teeth at rates comparable to modern humans. So the idea that toothaches are a modern problem is dead. Toothaches are a human problem. They have always been a human problem, and ancient humans had to solve them the hard way. So what did they actually do? Let's start with the most basic thing. The thing you'd probably try first if you were stuck in the wilderness with a throbbing molar and nobody coming to help. You'd want the thing out of your mouth. Tooth extraction, pulling a tooth. The most brutal, most straightforward, and almost certainly the oldest dental procedure in human history. Skulls from Neolithic sites across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East showed teeth clearly removed while the person was still alive. The bone around the empty socket shows healing, meaning they survived and lived for months, maybe years afterward. Think about what that required. Someone in the group, probably just whoever had the steadiest hands, took a sharpened stone or a carved antler tip and pried a living tooth out of someone's skull. No anesthesia, no clean instruments, just raw force applied to one of the most nerve-dense parts of the human body, while the patient was fully awake, probably being held down by the rest of the group. And they survived. The socket healed, they went back to foraging the next morning. We take Tylenol when we feel a headache coming on. These people had someone wrench a tooth out of their face with a modified rock. The gap between their pain tolerance and ours is a canyon. But extraction was the nuclear option, and ancient humans had something far more sophisticated. This is where it gets mind-blowing. In 2006, Roberto Macchiarelli and Alfredo Coppa published a study in Nature examining teeth from a Neolithic graveyard at Mehrgarh, Pakistan, roughly 9,000 years ago, and they found drill holes. Not random damage, not accidental cracks from eating, precise cylindrical holes bored into the biting surfaces of molar teeth. 11 teeth from 9 different adults. Under microscopic analysis, the drill marks were unmistakable. The edges were smooth and concentric, consistent with a rotating tool, not a chisel or a scraping stone. These people were using tiny flint-tipped bow drills, a cord wrapped around a thin shaft that spins a stone drill bit to bore into diseased teeth and remove decayed material. 9,000 years ago. Before the invention of writing, before the wheel, before metal tools existed, someone looked at a rotting tooth and thought, what if I spin a tiny sharp rock really fast and drill into it? And then they did it. And it worked. Replica tests showed creating one of these holes took less than 60 seconds, under a minute of a stone bit grinding into a living tooth with no numbing and no painkillers. Painful beyond imagination. But fast. Whoever did this understood that speed mattered. 9 adults, 11 teeth. A pattern of care. Fast forward a few thousand years to a discovery that sounds fake, but absolutely is not. In 2012, researchers described a human jawbone found near Trieste, Slovenia, about 6,500 years old. One canine had a long vertical crack that would have caused chronic pain and recurring infection. The crack had been filled with beeswax. Someone warmed beeswax, packed it into the crack, and sealed it shut. The oldest dental filling in history. Beeswax has antibacterial properties. It's moldable when warm, hardens at body temperature, and doesn't irritate tissue. Whoever chose it either got astronomically lucky or had done this before. This is applied knowledge. Now let's rewind even further. Past Homo sapiens entirely. Neanderthals were dealing with toothaches at least 49,000 years ago. In 2017, Laura Wyrick at the University of Adelaide analyzed hardened dental plaque still stuck to Neanderthal teeth from El Cedrón cave in Spain. Plaque traps microscopic traces of whatever a person was eating and preserves them for tens of thousands of years. One Neanderthal had a visible dental abscess. And the plaque on that individual's teeth contained traces of poplar bark, which contains salicin, the active ingredient in aspirin. The same individual also had traces of penicillium, a mold that produces penicillin. A Neanderthal, 49,000 years ago, consuming a natural painkiller and a natural antibiotic, while having an active dental infection. The researchers pointed out something hard to ignore. It was the sick one who had these traces, not the healthy individuals. The sick one was eating the medicine. And Neanderthal teeth from Krapina in Croatia show grooves consistent with using tiny sticks or bone picks to clean between teeth. Prehistoric flossing, by a species that went extinct 40,000 years ago. Now the part nobody wants to think about, because it would be dishonest to make this sound like it was all clever innovation. For most ancient humans, most of the time, the answer was simple. You suffered. You suffered and hoped it got better. Sometimes it did. A cracked tooth might stabilize. Your immune system might hold an infection long enough for the nerve to die and go quiet. But sometimes it didn't. And dental infections kill. They kill today. They absolutely killed in prehistory. When an abscess forms at the root of a tooth, the infection has to go somewhere. It can erode through the jawbone itself, creating a draining tunnel that leaks pus into your mouth. Horrifying, but sometimes survivable because the pressure has somewhere to release. But if the infection spreads inward instead of outward, it can move into your throat, your neck. From there, it can compress your airway, it can enter the bloodstream, and once it's in the blood, it can reach the heart, the lungs, or the brain. We have the skeletal evidence. Jawbones from archaeological sites across the globe show massive abscesses that had eaten through the bone entirely, leaving gaping holes where infection tunneled its way out. Some of these individuals lived with this for months or years of grinding, relentless pain. Others didn't live with it at all. And this isn't just our species. Homo naledi, 250,000 years ago, had debilitating dental disease. Australopithecus fossils going back 3 million years show tooth decay. This problem is older than our genus. It goes back to the first primates who discovered that fruit tasted good and didn't realize the sugar was destroying their teeth. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Tooth loss in prehistoric humans wasn't just painful, it was a survival crisis. Your teeth are tools. They're how you process food before your stomach deals with it. Losing molars meant you couldn't grind tough plant material. Losing front teeth meant you couldn't tear meat off a bone. In a world where every calorie mattered, where the difference between getting enough nutrition and slowly starving was razor thin, losing functional teeth was genuinely life-threatening. And yet, archaeologists have found skulls with nearly every tooth missing and jawbones showing years of healing. Those individuals survived. Someone was feeding them, processing their food. Keeping a toothless, weakened member of the group alive when the logical move would have been to let them go. That's not survival, that's compassion, written in bone. For 99% of human history, a cracked molar could end your life. The pain could stop you from eating. The infection could spread and kill you. Even if you survived both, the loss of teeth shortened your lifespan in ways that rippled through everything. Today, you sit in a padded chair, get a tiny injection that makes half your face go numb, and scroll through your phone while someone fixes the whole problem in less time than a Netflix episode. The whole experience cost you an afternoon and some mild annoyance. Your ancestors would have given anything for that afternoon. So next time you're in that chair, with the bright light and the paper bib and the hygienist asking if you've been flossing, remember what you're sitting in. Every tool in that room exists at the end of a line that stretches back 9,000 years to a person in Pakistan with a flint-tipped bow drill, and 49,000 years to a Neanderthal chewing poplar bark in a Spanish cave, and millions of years to the first primate that felt something sharp light up in the back of its jaw. They all had the same pain you have. They just didn't have the chair. 20 minutes. Numb, painless, done. It took us about 9,000 years to get there, give or take a few million.